gold. 1 ounce of it is worth more than most people make in a week. And right now, in the hills of California, thousands are racing to pull it from the ground before the whole thing collapses. This isn't 1849, it's today, and the new gold rush is already showing cracks. Kern County, California. Population 900,000. Unemployment higher than the state average. Median income lower. But beneath the dirt sits something worth killing for. Lithium, the new gold. Except it's not for jewelry or coins, it's for batteries. Electric cars, power grids, the future, they say. And everyone wants a piece. For over a century, this region survived on oil. Derricks dotted the landscape like mechanical locusts, pumping crude from the earth, feeding refineries, employing generations. But oil's dying, slowly, then all at once. Prices swing, regulations tighten. The world wants clean energy. So Kern County, desperate and broke, turned to the only card it had left. What's under the ground? Turns out the same geological formations that trapped oil also trapped lithium. Lots of it. Estimates say there's enough lithium in California's Salton Sea region alone to power 375 million electric vehicle batteries. That's more than every car in America, twice over. Suddenly, the forgotten valleys of inland California became the hottest real estate on the planet. Companies appeared overnight, startups with billion-dollar valuations and zero revenue, legacy mining firms pivoting from coal to lithium like it was a software update. Venture capital flooded in. Politicians gave speeches about jobs, independence, the American energy revolution. It felt like hope. It smelled like money. But here's what nobody mentions in the press releases. Lithium extraction is a mess. There are two main ways to get it. Hard rock mining, where you blast open mountains and crush ore into powder, or brine extraction, where you pump underground salt water to the surface, let it evaporate in massive pools, then harvest the lithium left behind. Both methods use staggering amounts of water. In a state that's been in a drought for over a decade, that's not a footnote. It's a fuse. The Salton Sea, California's largest lake, is already toxic. Runoff from decades of agricultural chemicals turned it into a chemical soup. The shores are littered with dead fish. The air smells like sulfur. Locals call it the zombie lake. And now companies want to drill into the geothermal brine beneath it, extracting lithium while the lake continues to shrink. As the water recedes, it exposes lake bed dust laced with arsenic, cadmium, and pesticides. When the wind picks up, that dust becomes airborne. People breathe it. Children play in it. Environmental groups are screaming. Residents are filing lawsuits. But the companies keep drilling because the demand is insane. Every major car manufacturer has committed to electric vehicles. Tesla, Ford, GM, Volkswagen. They've all announced timelines, billions in investment, entire factories retooled, and all of them need lithium. China controls most of the world's supply. The US wants to break that dependence. So California's lithium isn't just valuable, it's strategic, which means the government is involved. Federal grants, tax incentives, expedited permits. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act set aside $3 billion for domestic battery production. Another $2.8 billion for mining projects. Politicians from both parties suddenly care deeply about Kern County. They tour facilities, shake hands, promise jobs. And jobs are coming. Kind of. Lithium projects are capital intensive, meaning they need massive upfront investment, but relatively few workers once operational. A mine that costs $500 million to build might employ 200 people long term. Not the thousands that oil once provided. But in a county where 10% are unemployed, even 200 jobs sound like salvation. Except those jobs require skills most locals don't have. Geothermal engineering, chemical processing, environmental compliance. The companies say they'll train workers. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll import talent from out of state and leave Kern County with the mess. Because there will be a mess. There always is. In Nevada, lithium mining near Thacker Pass has already sparked protests. The site sits on land sacred to the Paiute and Shoshone tribes. It's also habitat for endangered species. Conservationists warn the mine will destroy ecosystems that took millennia to develop. The company promises mitigation. The tribes aren't buying it. In Chile, lithium brine extraction in the Atacama Desert has drained aquifers that indigenous communities depend on for farming and drinking water. Flamingo populations collapsed. Vegetation died. The companies pointed to economic growth. The locals pointed to dry wells. California says it'll be different. Stricter regulations, better oversight, sustainable practices. But California also said that about fracking and offshore drilling, and a dozen other resource grabs that left scars. Here's the paradox nobody wants to talk about. We need lithium to fight climate change. Electric cars reduce emissions. Grid-scale batteries store solar and wind power. The science is clear, but extracting that lithium creates new environmental damage. We're trading one set of problems for another, hoping the math works out. And it might, or it might not. The Salton Sea region is already one of the poorest in California. Asthma rates are double the state average. Life expectancy is lower. Schools are underfunded. Infrastructure is crumbling. Now add industrial-scale mining, increased truck traffic, chemical processing facilities, and the promise that this time it'll lift everyone up. The companies insist they're using cutting-edge extraction methods. Geothermal brine harvesting, they say, is cleaner than traditional mining. They'll pull lithium from water that's already being used for geothermal energy production. It's a closed loop, minimal waste, maximum efficiency. Except the technology is unproven at scale. The pilot projects look good on paper, but scaling from a few tons to millions of tons annually, that's where things usually break. What happens when the equipment fails? When the brine chemistry shifts unexpectedly? When demand suddenly drops because someone invents a better battery technology? The companies will pull out, they always do, and Kern County will be left with the cleanup bill, the contaminated land, and the jobs that vanished as quickly as they appeared. But right now, none of that matters, because the rush is on. Investors are pouring in. Drilling has started. The future is being built whether the locals are ready or not. And the wildest part? Most Americans have no idea this is happening. They don't know Kern County exists. They've never heard of the Salton Sea lithium boom. They charge their Teslas at night and assume the supply chain is someone else's problem. But it's not. It's right here, bubbling beneath California's most forgotten landscape. And the stakes are enormous. By 2030, global lithium demand is expected to triple. By 2040, it could increase tenfold. Electric vehicles are just the beginning. Grid storage, consumer electronics, military applications, the list keeps growing. Whoever controls lithium controls the energy transition. China knows this. They've already locked up supply chains across South America and Australia. They process over 60% of the world's lithium. The US is way behind. We import almost everything. Our largest domestic lithium mine in Nevada doesn't even crack the top 10 globally. That's why the Salton Sea matters. It's not just another mining project. It's a geopolitical play. If California can scale extraction here, America gets a seat at the table. Energy independence suddenly includes batteries, not just oil. The Defense Department is watching closely. So is the White House. This isn't about saving the planet anymore. It's about power. But here's what nobody's saying out loud. What if it doesn't work? What if the extraction tech can't scale? What if environmental lawsuits stall construction for years? What if the global battery market shifts to sodium or solid-state technology before California even gets started? The risk isn't just economic. It's existential for the region, because once you tear up the land, once you commit infrastructure and workforce to a single industry, there's no going back. Kern County has already lived this nightmare. Oil boomed, then faded. Agriculture boomed, then dried up. Now lithium is supposed to be the savior, but if it fails, what's left? Another generation of broken promises and poisoned soil. The companies, of course, have answers for everything. They've hired PR firms. They've launched community outreach programs. They promise scholarships, infrastructure investments, environmental restoration. They host town halls where executives in pressed shirts assure worried residents that this time it's different. We're partners, they say. We're invested in your future, and maybe they mean it. Or maybe they're just saying what they need to say to get the permits approved, because once the lithium is gone, once the market moves on, those executives won't be living in Calipatria. They'll be in boardrooms in San Francisco or Shanghai, explaining to shareholders why they had to cut costs and close operations. The people left behind won't have boardrooms. They'll have contaminated wells and unemployment checks. Still, some locals are optimistic. They have to be. When you've been poor for decades, when every industry has passed you by, you can't afford to be cynical. You take the jobs, you hope for the best. You tell yourself this time will be different, and who knows? Maybe it will be. Maybe California's regulations will hold. Maybe the technology will work. Maybe the companies will stay committed. Maybe this will actually lift the region out of poverty and into a sustainable future. It's possible, just unlikely, because the pattern is too consistent. Resource extraction always promises prosperity and usually delivers inequality. The wealth flows upward and outward, the environmental damage stays local. The jobs are temporary, the profits are permanent, but not for the workers. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And right now, the Salton Sea is rhyming with every other extraction story ever told. The details change, the outcome doesn't. What makes this especially painful is the climate angle. We're supposed to be the good guys now. Electric cars, clean energy, saving the planet. But if we're poisoning communities to mine the materials, are we really solving anything? Or are we just outsourcing the suffering to places we don't have to look at? It's the same logic that let us ignore oil spills in the Gulf or coal ash in Appalachia. As long as the damage happens somewhere else, we can pretend our hands are clean. Kern County is that somewhere else. Poor, brown, politically invisible. Perfect for sacrifice. And here's the cruelest irony. The Salton Sea was created by accident. In 1905, irrigation canals from the Colorado River burst, flooding the valley for 2 years. What was once desert became California's largest lake. It wasn't supposed to exist. For decades, it thrived anyway. Resorts popped up, beaches filled with tourists, fish populations exploded. Then the water started evaporating. Agricultural runoff turned it toxic. The fish died, the tourists left, the resorts crumbled. Now it's an environmental disaster, a public health crisis, and somehow a lithium gold mine. We broke it once. Now we're breaking it again, just in a different way. But the drilling continues, the permits get approved, the investment keeps flowing, because the world needs lithium, and the Salton Sea has it. Whether the people who live there benefit or suffer is almost beside the point. The market has decided, the future is electric, and someone somewhere has to pay the price. Right now, that someone is Kern County. They didn't ask for this. They didn't create the climate crisis. They're just the ones stuck holding the bill while the rest of us drive our electric cars and feel good about saving the planet. That's the trade. That's the deal. And it's already done. So what happens next? The drills keep spinning. The investors keep betting. And Kern County keeps waiting to see if this time the promise is real or just another coat of paint on the same old scam. The lithium is there. The demand is real, but so is the history. And history says the people at the bottom don't win these bets, they just survive them. Maybe that's enough. Maybe survival is the only victory left when you've been forgotten this long. Or maybe, just maybe, someone will finally look at what's happening in California's dying lake and ask the question nobody wants to answer. Is this really the future we're building? Or just another gold rush dressed up in different clothes, heading for the same disaster it always does?